Tēnā tātou katoa, ngā iwi Baha'i o Aotearoa, tēnei te mihi atu kia koutou, no te ngākau o te ao, kei konei mātou I Bāji I tēnei wā. Nō reira, tēnā tātou katoa.
Up to the time before we come, I was feeling so blessed to have the chance to be picked to come. And I say a lot of prayers, try to calm me down, because I was feel like I'm in cloud 9.
When my name was chosen, I wondered why me? Why was I blessed and chosen? I realised it's an honour and a privilege, and I didn't understand why me, but I accept that privilege and come on behalf of the council.
And I had to pinch myself so many times, knowing that I'm going to Haifa, to the Holy Land, which is a dream come true for me and my entire family.
The Universal House of Justice had this process of a random determination among the Regional Baha'i Council members of the National Assembly. So we didn't know who it was going to be, and it was this kind of a surprise and an honor. And at the same time, we're in this strange COVID environment. And so there was a great deal of uncertainty about whether we'd be able to go at all, whether the event was going to even be on. We had no idea.
It was a bit fraught, not knowing whether or not we were going to be able to get into managed isolation on our return. And we failed at one stage.
So we couldn't get flights. And then we heard 2 days before the second lot of MIQ spaces were made available, we heard that the Universal House of Justice had sent a message that they were praying that the New Zealand delegation would be able to attend. And then it was really only then that I felt pretty sure that it was all going to happen. And indeed it did. And we got spots in MIQ very easily from there, our flights, and from there it was all pretty straight sailing.
And I kept saying to myself, how could it be otherwise? With the Universal House of Justice praying. So that was the lead up to our journey. And then, of course, meeting up together in Auckland, and then meeting with the National Spiritual Assembly representatives from Tonga in Auckland, who we spent the first leg of our trip with to Dubai. That's when you started to get that great sense of anticipation building, because you knew that there were people coming in from other parts of the world.
There's a feeling of this growing momentum of humanity summoned to the Holy Land by the Universal House of Justice.
Israel is a very different country in so many ways. It's vibrant, a bit chaotic, a bit disheveled, but alive.
Getting into Israel is very bustling, it's busy, it's very rough around the edges.
When we come through Tel Aviv, Hoboth, I'm on the, I'm the soil of Israel. But once we turn around in the roundabout and looking up to the shrine of the Baha'i, that's when I have goosebumps. I feel like my head is going to explode.
I was lucky to be in the front seat of the car too, so that was a blessing to see the full grandeur and nobility of the shrine of the Bab and Abdul Baha. It's tear-jerking. It's really overwhelming.
The first couple of days we were in Israel, we had to ourselves to do pretty much what we wanted to do, because our flights meant that we got in 2 days before the scheduled program started.
We focus very much on preparing ourselves spiritually for the journey that we're about to embark on.
We went between the Shrine of the Bab and Bahji, the Shrine of Baha'u'llah, and visiting the mansion as much as we could.
You see the Shrine of the Bab with the terraces leading up to it, this kind of island of green in the midst of a beige landscape, because everything else in Israel is this kind of stony, beigey color. And you go, wow.
As it's my first time going to the shrine, the first time I walked towards the shrine, I was overwhelmed with emotion as well. I cry every time. Remembering, as I said, remembering where I come from, remembering New Zealand, remembering the families, remembering how I come through and all the things that I've been through, and feel really happy when I walk towards the shrine. I say a lot of thank you when I go to the shrines, and say, Ya Baha'u'llah Baha, and thank you for the chance to come.
It's really indescribable. It's very personal as well. Each person will have their own experience. Mine is very humbling. The beauty and serenity that is in there is so calming and yet agitating. It's very, I find it, I approach the threshold with such trepidation, and yet I feel such huge love. It's always a duality. There's two, I don't know. It's hard to describe.
And the gardens are this kind of, oasis of peace and calm, both at Bahji and at the Shrine of the Bab. And through those 2 days before the program started, you become aware that the rest of the world is joining. Because we were some of the first, the Philippines, Tonga, and us, we were some of the first ones. And then people from all the other places in the world started coming, and there's this gradually growing sense of anticipation and excitement and volume at the Pilgrim Reception Center.
In the scheduled visits, we went to the prison cell of Akka, where Baha'u'llah was confined during the period that he was in Akka. We also visited the house of Aboud and the house of Abdullah Pasha, where Baha'u'llah and the family lived, Abdul Baha's family as well. And so those were beautiful visits. And you get a sense again, you're reminded of the terrible sufferings that the Holy Family went through, that Baha'u'llah went through, Abdul Baha, and a greater sense this time too, an appreciation of the work that Abdul Baha did to shield his father from much of the hardship and sorrow. So yes, it gives you a great opportunity to leave the world behind and just remember the spiritual world, and to remember who we really are on this earth and what we're here for. One of the special privileges that we had there that I don't recall that we had at pilgrimage quite a few years ago was being able to hear the recording of the Master's voice chanting a prayer. And he repeats throughout that prayer, glad tidings, glad tidings.
Once I come out of the door, and on my phone, but I know I don't have Wi-Fi, just message my family. I get to listen to Abdul Baha's voice for the first time, and it's pretty special.
The most exciting visit of all was, of course, to the construction site of the shrine of Abdul Baha. Mind-blowing, and just in the sense of the difference between the shrine of Baha'u'llah and the shrine of the Bab. And of course Abdul Baha is there now, but he'll be moving to the shrine, his own shrine, and again it will have its own unique character. He will be at ground level, so humble, so lowly, and yet this amazing structure with the gardens overseeing it, and what a privilege. And so lucky that the Universal House of Justice allowed us to go to that space.
The buses that we got around on, our bus was 24 nations were represented in the people on this bus. I can't remember all of them. Zambia, Niger.
People from the United States, Australia. Yeah, so many different countries. Too hard to recall all of them.
Each bus load itself is a microcosm of humanity. Because on each bus load, there was, ours was an English-speaking bus load, but still, there were people from all continents on our bus. So even in that small bus, it's a microcosm of the world that we're building. After the scheduled visits, which lasted for 3 days, the official commemoration schedule took place. Each day, we would gather at the seat of the Universal House of Justice. The first day was at 8:30, and we thought we'd get there nice and early, so we got there at 8, but it was already packed out, because the Universal House of Justice starts on time. So even coming a half an hour early did not guarantee us prime seats. That's a good lesson.
To look around and see different races of the humanity, and the colorful of everyone representing where they come from, it's a sign of Abdul Baha to me, because he loves color. Abdul Baha always tried to show everybody that colors is beautiful, black is beautiful, different colors is beautiful. And when you look around how all countries and representatives come in their traditional wear, it's really special.
Always prayers and devotions, beautiful music, and again from around the world. Tears to my eyes when I heard the songs from the Pacific. There was Pidgin English and Fijian language songs, which I just couldn't stop crying to think that at this most prestigious event, those languages were revered.
Program commenced with the opening of the commemorations by a Universal House of Justice member at the seat of the Universal House of Justice, and then the International Teaching Centre members gave keynote addresses on both days, and 3 days actually. All were women. The key things, the key takeaway for me was the station of Abdul Baha as the centre of the covenant, as the mystery of God, as someone whose entire life symbolises or represents the heroic age of the faith, from his birth on the night of the declaration of the Bab to his passing, the conclusion of the heroic age.
The addresses really talked about the role of Abdul Baha as the center of the covenant and what that meant, and actually how big that is. It's not only about successorship. It's not only about the fact that Abdul Baha took the reins of the Baha'i community after the passing of Baha'u'llah. It's actually about that he is that, true, as well as being an exemplar and interpreter of Baha'u'llah's words. But it's also that makes him the pivot of the oneness of humanity itself. That is a big concept for me. That because without this faith, the world cannot progress and have prosperity. And without that covenant, this faith cannot exist and help the world. And so the world needed Abdu'l-Baha to be the center of that covenant.
He interpreted his father's teachings and principles, and he put them into practice. He teaches us how to live these principles and teachings. He became the embodiment of what this cause should look like on earth. You know, how we should behave, how we should live, our approach to things, our attitude to things. He embodied all of that. And he, being the center of it, is able to portray to us. And I think it's really important because, you know, we need things spelt out for us. What it practically looks like. And I often do think of this. You know, I often think, well, what if we didn't have Abdu'l-Baha? What if he didn't show us what these things really mean? You know, what kind of weird and flighty ideas could we have ended up with? But we've been protected from that. And he is the one who has defended the cause and protected it from schism and from conflict.
The keynote address on the second day was around the will and testament of Abdu'l-Baha. One of the things that I really got to appreciate in that talk was this concept that in our faith there are three really important documents. The woman from the International Teaching Center referred to them as three charters that have, ever since then, defined the work of the Baha'i world. One was the tablet to Carmel, which was all around the institutions on Mount Carmel. One was from Abdu'l-Baha, the tablets of the Divine Plan, which set in motion the faith going from vibrant but relatively small communities to being spread over the entire planet. How astonishing is that? And the third one was the will and testament of Abdu'l-Baha. And what the member of the International Teaching Center made really clear is that Baha'u'llah had said that the Universal House of Justice would exist, but it's the will and testament of Abdu'l-Baha that created the administrative order. There was no administrative order before the will and testament of Abdu'l-Baha, and that this interaction between the guardian and the Universal House of Justice, that was the birth of the administrative order.
It's not the document of a usual will and testament of leaving a legacy for the family, but it is the unfoldment of an administrative order that will take us through the next 1,000 years.
The third keynote address looked at the last series of 5-year plans, the last 25 years of progress of the faith. And it was very exciting. They put some graphs up, and it was exciting to see that in the first 5-year plans, the first 20 years, there was growth, but it was incremental, gradual. But in the last 5 years, it took this massive leap. Number of core activities, number of participants in core activities, number of people participating in the bicentenary events, all of them just have this astronomical rise. And it just gives such hope and confidence about where we're going. Especially that the COVID situation around the world did not slow down that progress at all. The acceleration continued through that.
To be able to hear the overview of all that's been achieved over that period of time was quite amazing, and spells out for us what can be achieved in the next 9-year plan. The platform has been set. The growth over the last 5-year plan has been exponential, and so my expectation, and I feel very confident after hearing what we've heard and seeing what we've seen, that we could expect more of the same.
even though it's a commemoration, but the friends are here to like celebrate the life of Abdul Baha for 100 years. You know, the singing of the African friends, it lights up, you know, thinking Abdul Baha is happy and he's busy in the next world looking after us.
When we gathered in the forecourt of the Eastern Pilgrim House, which is beside the shrine where Abdul Baha's remains are, again, sombre and quiet, but again, humanity coming together to celebrate this amazing life.
And I wanted to imprint on my heart everything that I saw and felt that night. So I looked up and there was a half moon hanging in the sky, and it was completely clear, and I could see the stars through the palm trees, the olive trees, and I noticed that none of the leaves were stirring. It was a completely still, cool autumn night, and I felt like, you know, the concourse were with us, that they were with us. The program with the beautiful prayers being chanted and spoken in different languages, the music was absolutely otherworldly, and of course concluding with the circumambulation of the shrine by everyone present.
There was huge celebration in the oneness of humanity. People were delighted by the colour and the diversity and the joy of the different nations sort of coming together. So we often congregate on the steps of the seat of the House of Justice and obviously take photos and exchange numbers and just celebrate that oneness of humanity. You really see it in action.
People wore national dress, and it's just this beautiful expression of humanity. And so it was really nice that Ona and Huti had brought outfits to wear, and so they were superstars. They were in who knows how many photos Huti and Ona were in, representing. We were all in photos, but those two in particular.
When we're dressed in our costumes that represent our countries, it just shows this fantastic array of the diversity of humanity. And it's so beautiful, and so everybody wants to take photos. I don't know how many hundreds of photos that we participated in.
I always like to take photos with, when I see the colors of, you know, different colors and different, you know, clothes wearing by the friends. I really admired it, and I can't help it but just taking pictures of them. I don't know about myself being in pictures, but I sometimes photobomb some of the photos to be in. That's one thing I learned, is to photobomb.
It fulfills, when you think about the prophecy, that we're participants here, we're in this, participating in this momentous occasion that, and you think of the prophecies that all nations shall flow unto Zion, you know, and you think, I'm here and this is it. You know, it's actually happening, and it has been happening for quite some time. And you get a sense of wonder that, you know, oh Lord, here am I, here am I.